There's almost no game on the planet that does not have any crates, especially when it comes to first-person shooters. So let's make ourselves a crate that we can push around and have some physics fun with. Okay, to do this, you already know how to make a cube. Go to Game Object, Create Other, and then select Cube. Now let's rename this cube and call it Crate. As you can see, it's created at the exact same 000 location as the prefab here, so let's move it up a little bit in the sky and then move it closer towards our camera. That will do perfectly. Okay, now this game object has a couple of components attached to it. First off, we have a cube mesh filter. Alright, this is fine, we don't need to touch it. Next we have a box collider, and a box collider is green. You can see that this is the same in the 3D view. The green cube is actually a second cube on top of the blue cube. And the green cube, basically the only thing it does is it creates collision in the world so that we know when our cube is colliding with something. And then last but not least, we have a mesh renderer, and this renders the 3D mesh or the cube in 3D space. If I uncheck it, the cube becomes invisible and the only thing we see is the box collider that collides for our physics material. Okay, let's turn the mesh renderer back on and let me show you some other things that you can do with this cube. Right now when I run the game and I look at the cube is just hovering in the air and it's not doing much. Now, unless if you want a little bit of a boring game with hovering cubes, then this is fine. But if we want to, we can add some physics in Unity pretty quickly. Here's how to do this. Go to Component and then go to Physics and add a rigid body. Now, rigid body might be a weird name, but it basically means it is a body that has physics attached to it, but the body is rigid. In some games or some 3D rendering applications, there's also the possibility to use a soft body. And a soft body, like for example a tennis ball, will squeeze as it bounces off of something. In Unity, that is not supported and only rigid bodies are supported, but don't worry about it, we will have plenty fun with rigid bodies right here. Now the only thing we needed to do is add the rigid body, and it's added as a component to this game object. You can set the mass of this object, you can set the gravity on or off, and you can do all kinds of fun stuff, but we don't need that right now because it already works out of the box. Let me select my first person controller, look at it from the Y view by clicking the Y, and then let me rotate it a little bit so as soon as the game starts I can already see the cube and so that I can see what's going on. As you can see in the game view, that worked just fine, and as soon as I hit play you can see that the physics are applied to the cube and the cube falls down. Now, nothing much exciting you might say, but what if we make another crate, clone this one, go edit and then duplicate. Let's look at this from 3D view again, and let's move this cube to a higher location of the other one and then move it slightly away from the other cube. Now when I run my game, watch what happens. One of the cubes interacts with the other cube and it falls off the other one. Now as you can see, Unity has extremely powerful physics built in, and we can use those physics to our advantage. Now you might be asking, is there any physics applied to our current character? Our character, of course, will fall off the platform when we run him off the platform. Let me show you that exactly. As soon as I fall off the platform, you can see I'm falling and falling and falling forever. However, our main character does not have a rigid body attached to it because rigid body physics are very realistic. And if you want your character to have realistic physics in your game, then probably he will tumble over and fall the whole time because most 3D models don't have feet big enough to keep a character up walking in a game. So for a character, we don't use exactly rigid bodies, but we use what is called, and I will show you this, character controllers. Now, character controllers are basically a hack into the Unity physics system, and it doesn't really work the same way as real physics. However, it does give us the method to run with characters around in 3D space without having to deal with realistic physics. Now more about this later, and also how we can change this in script.